Have you ever watched someone crumble, not from violence or revenge, but from the sheer power of your silence, your boundaries, your self-respect? That's how you break a narcissist. You don't fight them on their turf, you evolve beyond it. Narcissists thrive in chaos, control, and attention. But what if I told you that you hold the key to making them absolutely miserable, not by stooping to their level, but by rising above it? In this video, I'll reveal 6 powerful truths narcissists hate, and how embracing them can set you free and shake their illusion to the core. Your indifference is one of the most powerful weapons you possess in the presence of a narcissist. It isn't coldness, it isn't apathy, it is control, it is clarity, it is the refusal to hand over your emotional energy to someone who feeds on chaos and insecurity. Narcissists aren't sustained by love, they're sustained by your reactions. Every time you defend yourself in desperation, every time you try to explain your value, every time you get pulled into their spiral of blame and manipulation, you give them exactly what they want, proof that they still matter to you. But when you disengage, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with poise, you begin to reclaim your power. And to them, nothing is more terrifying. Indifference doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've decided who gets to witness those feelings. It means you've made a conscious choice to stop performing for someone who never clapped for you unless they stood to benefit. It means your peace is no longer for sale. This infuriates the narcissist because it tells them they've lost access, not just to your life, but to your attention. And attention is their drug. When you don't feed the drama, the narcissist begins to suffocate. When you don't justify your choices, they panic. When you simply move on quietly and confidently, they are left to wrestle with the one thing they cannot manipulate: your silence. A narcissist's greatest fear isn't your anger, it's your evolution. It's the moment they realize you no longer need them, not for love, not for validation, not even for closure. Indifference breaks the cycle because it signals to them and to yourself that the game is over. They can no longer bait you into emotional warfare. They can no longer hijack your day with petty accusations, guilt trips, or guilt-soaked affection. You don't respond, you don't defend, you don't flinch. You simply live. This drives them mad because it reveals the truth they never wanted you to discover. They were never in control. You just hadn't taken your power back yet. But now that you have, now that you sit calmly in your self-worth, they are forced to confront what they've tried to avoid their entire lives, their own emptiness. Your indifference acts as a mirror, showing them who they are without someone else to manipulate. And trust me, they won't like the reflection. So, don't be fooled by the tantrums, the guilt, the sudden bursts of charm they try to use to pull you back in. That's not love, that's desperation, that's fear in disguise. Stand your ground, smile gently, say less, move forward. The less you react, the more powerful you become. Your indifference is not cruelty, it's healing. It is the beautiful boundary that says, I have learned, I have grown, and I will not go back. That is the kind of strength that makes a narcissist truly miserable and makes you truly free. Strong boundaries are one of the most powerful weapons you can possess when dealing with a narcissist. They are not just preferences or suggestions, they are lines carved in conviction. And when you start enforcing those lines, something changes. You stop bleeding energy into the bottomless pit of manipulation. You stop giving pieces of yourself away in exchange for false peace. The narcissist who once thrived on your compliance suddenly finds themselves locked out of the very system they use to control you. They don't hate the boundary itself, they hate what it represents. Your awakening, your growth, your refusal to play small anymore. Because here's the truth, narcissists are not afraid of confrontation, they thrive in it. They manipulate with charm, with rage, with guilt, but boundaries remove the bait. They strip away the theatrics and leave only facts, and narcissists are powerless against facts. When you say no without trembling, when you walk away without flinching, when you don't respond to provocation, that's when they feel the shift. You're no longer an actor in their stage play. You're the director of your own life, and that is unbearable to them. The moment you stop over-explaining yourself is the moment you start healing. Narcissists are masters at making you doubt your decisions. They question your motives, your tone, your timing, anything to chip away at your confidence. But boundaries don't require explanation. They require consistency. You don't need to justify your choices to someone who refuses to respect them. You don't need to argue your value with someone who profits off your insecurity. The boundary is the explanation. I don't tolerate that. Full stop. That is power. That is clarity. And clarity terrifies those who depend on confusion to keep control. They will call you cold, selfish, unreasonable. Let them. That's not truth, it's noise. The louder they scream, the more it reveals how much they depended on your silence. Because for a narcissist, your compliance was a drug. Your endless tolerance was their playground. But when you sober up and start making decisions from a place of worth instead of fear, they lose access. And nothing frustrates a narcissist more than losing control over someone they thought they had locked in. But let's be honest, boundaries won't feel comfortable at first. They will feel heavy. You'll second guess yourself. You'll wonder if you're being too much, but you're not. You're being free. You're being whole. You're choosing your peace over their approval. That's not selfish, it's sacred, and the more you practice it, the stronger you get. Because boundaries are not meant to push people away. They're meant to protect the right people and remove the wrong ones. They are an invitation to mutual respect, and anyone who cannot honor that invitation has no business in your inner circle. So hold the line, without apology, without fear. You owe no one unlimited access to your life. Boundaries are not about rejection, they're about direction. And the moment you understand that, you stop being a target, you start becoming a force. And narcissists, they hate that. But that's not your problem anymore. If you need their approval, they win. That's the game. That's the hook. Narcissists are masters at keeping you hungry for praise, desperate for recognition, constantly second-guessing your own value until you forget who you were before they showed up. They'll dangle their compliments like a carrot, only to yank it back the moment you get close, because they want your validation to come through them. That's how they maintain control. They want you addicted to their opinion of you. But the moment you stop playing that game, the moment you realize that your value does not require external confirmation, you take the power back. Self-direction is not arrogance, it's clarity. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I'm enough, not perfect, but whole. Narcissists can't stand that because it means their opinion becomes irrelevant. You're not swayed by their disapproval. You're not controlled by their praise. You're free. And freedom to a narcissist is unbearable because they can't manipulate someone who doesn't need what they're offering. When you validate yourself, you stop auditioning for a role in someone else's drama. You stop explaining your worth. You stop negotiating your identity. You simply are. And that kind of certainty, it radiates. It repels manipulation. Narcissists will test it, of course. They'll throw their usual tricks at you, gaslighting, guilt, fake apologies, sudden praise, to see if you'll bite. But when you've done the work internally, when your self-esteem is no longer for sale, their bait falls flat. It doesn't move you, and that frustrates them deeply. Understand this, narcissists survive on supply. That supply is your attention, your reactions, your emotional energy. When you validate yourself, the supply dries up. You're no longer a source, you're a mirror reflecting back their emptiness instead of absorbing their chaos. And that kind of strength is like a fortress to them, impenetrable, cold, invincible. So yes, they'll hate it, but that's not your concern. Your concern is rising above the dysfunction, not entertaining it. To validate yourself is to stop waiting for permission to feel worthy. It's to stop believing that your value depends on how well you please the unpleasable. It's to reclaim your narrative and say, I don't need your applause to know I'm doing well. I don't need your acceptance to walk tall. That's not ego. That's healing. That's transformation. And that's what they fear the most. Someone who sees clearly, loves deeply, and stands firmly even when no one claps. So build that foundation inside. Speak truth to yourself. Celebrate your quiet victories. Confront your flaws without shame. And most of all, remind yourself daily, your value isn't a negotiation, it's a revelation. And once you've seen it, really seen it, there's no going back. That's how you break free. That's how you win. That's how you make the narcissist irrelevant. Not with hatred, but with unshakable, unapologetic self-worth. When you achieve success, especially without a narcissist's involvement, you strip away the foundation upon which they've built their sense of superiority. Narcissists thrive on being the center of attention, always positioning themselves as indispensable, often taking credit for what they didn't contribute. They want to be the puppet master behind every accomplishment, every victory, regardless of whether they've earned it. The mere thought of someone succeeding without their influence, without them taking the spotlight, is a direct affront to their inflated self-image. It's a challenge to their very identity. But the truth is, success is not a product of someone else's manipulation or control over you. Success is the culmination of your own hard work, dedication, and personal growth. When you rise and claim your achievements on your terms, untainted by their interference, you send a clear message, not just to them, but to everyone around you. You are capable. You are enough. You do not need their validation or approval to thrive. The narcissist, on the other hand, cannot tolerate this. The moment you shine without them, the moment your success no longer requires them to be part of the equation, they feel the sting of insignificance. They crave the role of the gatekeeper, the one who decides who succeeds and who falters. When that power is taken from them, when someone proves they can achieve greatness on their own, it exposes their irrelevance. Your growth becomes their nightmare. It forces them to confront the uncomfortable truth that they were never as essential as they believed. For a narcissist, everything is about control. They want to maintain a chokehold on your accomplishments, feeding off the admiration and recognition that comes with it. When you find success in your own right, it's a direct challenge to their control over you. It threatens their narrative that they are the indispensable force behind everything. Narcissists often have a fragile ego beneath their grandiose exterior, and your success without them is like a mirror reflecting their deep insecurities and self-doubt. You see, narcissists need to be needed. They want to be your source of validation, your reason for triumph. But when you prove you don't need them, it breaks the illusion they've carefully crafted for themselves. It tells them that their presence in your life, their influence, is inconsequential. This is what truly burns them, the truth that they weren't needed for you to succeed, and more powerfully, that their manipulation and control didn't shape your journey one bit. So rise unapologetically, rise in your own power. Do not shrink or dim your light to appease them. or anyone else for that matter. Your success is yours to own, not to be shared or divided with someone who would claim your achievements as their own. When you flourish, when your growth and accomplishments speak for themselves, you expose the narcissist's hollow claim to significance. You reveal the truth of who you are, and it's far beyond anything they can try to control. In their eyes, your independence is a failure on their part, a loss of influence, and that is something they cannot bear. But that is precisely why you must rise, not only for your own growth, but to show the world and to remind yourself that you don't need their approval to succeed. You are already enough. Your success stands tall, with or without their recognition, and that burns brighter than any fleeting validation they could ever offer. Accountability is something that narcissists absolutely despise. It's a concept they will do everything in their power to avoid because it forces them to face a reality they've spent their entire lives running from. For the narcissist, accountability is not just uncomfortable, it's a direct threat to the carefully constructed persona they've built. This persona, this inflated version of themselves, thrives on deception, control, and avoidance of any real consequences. They need to believe they are always right, always in control, and never responsible for anything that goes wrong. And when you hold them accountable, you disrupt that carefully crafted illusion. They will avoid it at all costs. They'll deflect. They'll shift blame to others, sometimes even to you, no matter how illogical it may be. They'll lie, bend the truth, distort facts, or outright fabricate stories to avoid any implication that they have made a mistake or caused harm. They may even manipulate situations, twist words, and create confusion to ensure they never have to face the consequences of their action. It's a psychological defense mechanism, a survival tactic that allows them to maintain the illusion of power, control, and perfection. But here's the powerful part. When you calmly, consistently, and firmly hold them to the truth, you strike at the heart of their fragile ego. You remind them that reality is not subjective, that truth is not up for debate, and that consequences are not negotiable. You force them to reckon with their own behavior in a way they simply can't escape. And in doing so, you start to dismantle the facade they've worked so hard to build. It's easy to get sucked into the drama they create, to get caught in the whirlwind of their lies and manipulation. But real power lies in remaining grounded in truth, in staying calm and consistent. When you refuse to allow them to wriggle out of responsibility, you take away their control over you. And while it may not immediately change their behavior, it will begin to shift the dynamic. Over time, the narcissist starts to realize that they cannot continue to manipulate you with the same tactics that once worked. They cannot gaslight you into questioning your reality. They cannot get away with lying without you calling them out. This doesn't mean you need to engage in a prolonged battle with them. Narcissists thrive on conflict, and they will escalate things as long as you allow them to. What's important is that you hold firm to your truth, setting boundaries and holding them accountable when they overstep. The narcissist may try to turn things around on you, to play the victim or to twist the narrative, but your job is to stand firm. Their lack of accountability is not your burden to carry. When you stop enabling their behavior, when you stop accepting their lies, you begin to take back your power. The narcissist may not like it, they may fight back with every ounce of their being, but here's the reality. Truth doesn't need validation, it stands on its own. And when you insist on living in the truth, when you refuse to accept their distortions and deceptions, you become untouchable. You are no longer a pawn in their game. You are a force to be reckoned with, a person who values their own integrity and holds others to the same standard. So when you encounter a narcissist, remember, They may run from accountability, but you don't have to. Stand firm in your convictions. Hold them accountable for their actions, not with anger or frustration, but with calm, unshakable resolve. Remind them that reality is not theirs to manipulate and that truth will always find a way through the darkness. The more you do this, the more you will see their power over you fade. And that, more than anything, is what they fear most. This is not about revenge, this is about redemption. You don't need to destroy a narcissist to defeat them. You need only become someone they cannot control. That begins with strength, with discipline, with truth. The moment you stop playing their game is the moment you start winning yours. They hate that. And that's exactly why you must do it. Stand firm, live free,